Good afternoon, dear friends. This is Ruslan Belov with you. You know what's interesting? Yesterday, the US Secretary of State came out and said, "We cannot specify a time frame for the end of the conflict or its resolution in Ukraine." But remember what was being said before Trump's inauguration and after his inauguration. Remember how Trump said, "I will end the conflict within 24 hours." Or recall how the media kept saying, "Any day now, in February, Putin and Trump will meet and come to an agreement." And how did it turn out in the end? Well, reality set in. The reality that this conflict is extremely complex, and resolving it is not just a matter of 100 days. I think even in half a year it will be impossible to resolve. It would be good if at least by the end of the year some progress is visible. But the fighting continues, and we continue to monitor the situation on the front. Let's open the map. So friends, the front remains in constant daily movement. In some areas, there is even significant advancement. But let's go step by step. I'll first say a few words about the situation in the border areas, and then we'll go over the main front lines. Belgorod region, here, thankfully, everything has more or less stabilized. The armed forces of Ukraine are no longer attacking with the same intensity. Most likely, they simply no longer have the same strength. Over the past 2 days, their progress has been negative. Negative because Russian forces managed to reclaim positions they previously held in Popovka. As a result, their controlled territory has now shrunk to 8 square kilometers. At its peak, it was nearly 12 square kilometers. So after 13 days of an offensive, after losing 9 tanks and around 30 units of equipment, not to mention personnel, what did the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, gain? A grand total of 8 square kilometers of Belgorod land. Kursk region. Meanwhile, the Russian army has had success in the Kursk region. In addition to capturing a border checkpoint in Sumy Oblast and advancing toward the border itself, there was also a breakthrough and entry into the northern part of Guev. What are the prospects for the battle for Guev? It's hard to say. Although the village is located in a lowland, I don't think its liberation will happen in just 2 or 3 days. As for Oleshnya, given that it is being blocked from the north, east, and south, I think the situation will be resolved by this weekend, and the village will be liberated. At least all the conditions for this are in place. Meanwhile, in Sumy Oblast, reports are emerging from all sides that the Russian army is preparing a full-scale offensive operation there. Yesterday, there was even talk of a 70,000-strong force being assembled for this advance. Where this number comes from, I don't know. Probably out of thin air. But one thing is certain, an operation is being prepared, and something will happen soon. For now, the Russian forces continue a slow creeping offensive aimed at tightening the noose around Yunukovka, and they have seen partial success. As I mentioned yesterday, Russian-controlled territory in Sumy Oblast has expanded to approximately 50 square kilometers, and the advance continues. Kharkiv region, moving on to the main front lines. Let's start with Kharkiv region. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially announced the capture of the village of Krasno Pervo, right here. This means another piece of the bridgehead on the right bank of the Oskol River is now secured. Thus, the Dvorekny bridgehead has now been connected with this one. The only remaining task is to capture Kamenka, which would link everything into a continuous front line over a distance of more than 30 kilometers. Why is this important? First, for overall stabilization. Previously, when advancing in the Dvoreknaya area, Ukrainian forces on the flanks could interfere. Now, Russian troops moving forward know that on both their right and left flanks, they are covered by their own forces. What is the goal of the bridgehead? Honestly, I can't say for sure. No one from the general staff is leaking secrets to me. Some believe the objective is Kupiansk, that an encirclement and storming of the city is planned for the summer. Others suggest that the movement might shift towards connecting with the Volchansk front. One thing is certain, the advance continues, and because of this, the UAF constantly has to transfer new reinforcements here, preventing them from acting in other directions or leaving some sectors of the front exposed. Lyman region, a good example of this, is the Lyman area, where the UAF is in a difficult position. And it all happened suddenly. Previously, the pace of advance here was about the same as in Sumy Oblast, slow, cautious, infantry-led, with little armored support. Sometimes the front line didn't move for an entire week, but in just 2 days there was a massive breakthrough, doubling the Russian bridgehead in the area. At this moment, Katerinovka is almost fully occupied, though it's not yet officially marked in red. Russian forces have approached Novoe with reports that reconnaissance groups had already infiltrated the village. The advance toward Zelenaya Dolina continues. Strategic goals establish a stable bridgehead for a future push toward Lyman, which is likely a summer objective. Link up with Russian positions in Makiivka, effectively clearing an area of 40 square kilometers. The UAF is reportedly in shock and unable to form a solid defensive line. This means that in the coming days, we might hear more good news from this sector. Additionally, Mirn has been captured, a tiny village on the right bank. Other front lines on the eastern bank, fighting is ongoing, but without significant progress. Russian forces captured Terna over a month ago, yet have struggled to fully secure Yampolovka, let alone Torske. The right bank is making good progress, while the left bank remains tough. However, if Torske falls, it will greatly complicate the UAF's position in the Serebryansky forest, the Siversk area, Lyman itself. This is why the UAF is putting up such fierce resistance here. They know that a retreat would have severe consequences. March 29th, deepening the Russian breakthrough. According to control data, Russian units in Kotliarovka, Troitskoye, Bogdanovka have continued pushing deeper after breaking through UAF defenses. Last night, they entered the outskirts of Bogdanovka, and today a video surfaced showing Russian mechanized columns moving southwest of Kotliarovka, just 3.5 kilometers from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Outlook for the UAF. The Ukrainian side acknowledges that their defenses are unstable and that they lack sufficient infantry reserves across the front. This shortage is making it increasingly difficult for them to maneuver reserves. By summer or autumn, the situation could become even more critical for the UAF, leading to daily breakthroughs, possibly deeper advances toward Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, or even Dnipro. Today, Zelensky made a number of very important statements that will undoubtedly impact both the future of military operations and Ukraine's future relations with the US and Russia. Zelensky stated that Ukraine will never, under any circumstances, recognize all the military aid provided by the United States as a debt. This will not happen. Ukraine is grateful, and Zelensky himself expressed gratitude to Western countries and the US for their assistance. However, he will not allow America to use this aid as a weapon, a tool of blackmail, or leverage over him. Additionally, Zelensky announced that in the near future, a crucial meeting will take place, bringing together all interested parties and countries that under certain conditions might consider deploying their contingents on Ukrainian territory. This suggests that there are ongoing discussions, possible opportunities, unresolved issues, and necessary guarantees. There is a lack of US security guarantees, ongoing military operations, and other critical aspects. It is possible that these negotiations will seek to address these concerns. So, as we can see, despite diplomatic talks and Donald Trump's efforts to somehow de-escalate the conflict, there is no sign of a resolution. On the contrary, the conflict continues to escalate. One thing is clear: without continued Western assistance, Ukraine will not be able to sustain the fight for the next 6 to 9 months. Final thoughts. That's all for now. I wish you all a great weekend. Rest well and spend time with your loved ones.